Hello friends, have a good time. We are at your service with Shabnameh. Can Washington prevent the emergence of competing powers? The sentence you heard is an issue that was investigated in the report of the Al-Khali base. A report, a part of which we want to review together. I need to remind you of one thing. Our world, these days, is far away from the war. Wow, I said a sentence. Far from the most war period of his own. That is. Compared to the previous ones that we have experienced, it is far from the most war period that we are seeing. We want to go check it out. See, is this the calm before the storm? Does this indicate the events that will occur after this silence? What exactly is this? In what condition are we? What will this world look like? Powers will come, for free. They will push aside the superpowers and the superpowers will go to the sidelines? Or do they also have something to say? You see, this issue of artificial intelligence that never falls out of my mouth and I am constantly emphasizing on it. It is a matter that those who unveiled it, regretted it. A number of them came and said that we regretted. I feel that maybe we did something bad. For example, we unveiled it and talked about it. One of them, who was the creator of GPT chat, said that China should help so that this does not lead to a disaster. They unveiled something that is extremely surprising. Let me tell you a strange thing. It's been a while since they unveiled these chatbots. In Western countries, obscene and sexual uses of these have been made. Some of these are extremely ridiculous and ugly. I cannot mention it. I saw a case mentioned by Persian language media, which surprised me a lot. I said, well, you translate this when you come here. All those who did it with GPT chat, you are promoting it. Which is helping others get ideas from it, and that's a disaster. If it's really worrying, and you feel this path is scary, then don't promote it. Don't help it be seen. If you feel that it is good, others should also learn, well, work on this news, translate it, and use it in the Persian language environment of the nation. I don't want to get away from the discussion we had. I just made a hint so that you know that we are in such a space. There are some tools coming. Something is coming, that completely changes the game. And it can increase the domination of others over humanity by 1,000 times in a frightening and strange way. In such a situation, let's see what is being said about this rail placement that may change. I will read the beginning of Al-Khali's report for you. He said, from the first day when the crisis in Ukraine plunged into a deep abyss, the management of the crisis had the characteristics of a war movement. As the curtain behind which lies the dreams of dominating the new order and the international future. Many people say, a fight between Russia and Ukraine. Many people say, sir, don't see the story so unprofessionally. It is a fight between NATO and Russia. In the meantime, Ukraine has become a victim. You know that, even now, in this battle that happened, they had a counterattack, the Ukrainians. And they saw a very terrible loss. And their weaponry has been destroyed, which has severely affected them. Will this game end? Will anyone decide to think rationally about it? Never. This is a dignified game. Forget the fight between NATO and Russia. This is a show of strength. That the victor of this battle is NATO or Russia. His own language, after this battle, and in the world ahead, they see more expressively. Let's look at the report together. He says that this connection between war and the international system, it means that, they say, after this war, a domination and control over the new and future international order will be formed. It is confirmed by former American officials and experts, who are aware of what is happening behind the scenes. Some strategists believe that the global strategy of the United States of America, after the collapse of the Soviet Union, it has become confused. Because the collapse of the Soviet Union led to changes in the international system, and at the same time, there was no change in America's strategy. I will tell you two things. Here it says, quoted by American experts, quoted by politicians who know from behind the curtain. According to these, the fight is not related to now. The fight related to after the collapse of the Soviet Union. That is, the collapse of the Soviet Union happened. Didn't the United States hold back the Soviet Union? Okay. Now that the situation should be in his favor. So why does he say that after the collapse of the Soviet Union? The control is out of his hands, we are now seeing the consequences. There is one point, this point is very important. I said this point, as a small disciple, as a younger brother, as the least among you. And I hope someone will think about my words. Behold, this is what he is saying about America. This is what I have been telling you for a few days now. Rather, a few weeks. And that issue is this. Now, if the issue of America's decline is true, which is true, and if the rail-laying world is changing, that is changing. You want to welcome the next world with today's politics, you have lost the game. You have to recite Fatiha for yourself. Now you have seen the problem of America. What did he say? He said, in the Soviet Union, when the order has changed, it has not changed this policy. He says, you should have changed your policy. It's true that you pushed it aside, you won the field. You should have changed this policy. The decline of America if it happens. If we accept the premise that Iran, China, and Russia are effective in the future, and played a major role in subverting the current order. However, these three countries will be challenged if they do not have a plan in their own policymaking. The rest of the countries are the same. Now I have a question for you. How many gatherings can you name for me? How many meetings can you name? How many seminars can you mention in Iran? Name the seminar as well, I accept. Let 4 people sit down and talk openly about the future order of the world. That America is in decline. The future system is being imposed on us, what should we do? I don't think there is such a meeting in Iran now, and this is scary. If you have a civilized view, if the issue is important to you, if the history is several thousand years old, the others don't say these. We say the words we have. I'm not talking in vain. Iran is not saying wrong, it is saying these things. If we believe in such things, we must plan for it. For example, whenever we say this, it's as if some people have become magic. Maybe it doesn't even reach their ears. Maybe it doesn't reach the ears of our university professors. I don't want to say that there is no effort. Things are happening. First of all, you have to preserve the field of civilization. Then, you have to go to other places. You can hear traces of America's cries that Iran has reached Africa, that Iran, China and Russia have reached South America. These are being heard. This is good. That you are going to new people who you feel can be effective. This is a very good thing. But the elite society, how universally and comprehensively accepted this? Accepted or not? I was talking with one of my friends. He was checking the role and weight of different countries. For example, he was talking about Mr. Razi's trip to East Asia, the country he had recently visited. He was also talking about others. He said, Chile. Chile is a country whose name may not be heard much these days. He said, we will need this in the future. Iran needs Chile. He used to say, from now on, you should go and have a deep connection with it. They are anti-American, anti-Americans have come to power there, you should think about it. This kind of country should be identified. Communication must be defined. And if it is not defined, we will come to our senses one day, not only us, every country that is not alert in this matter. It means that many countries will come to their senses one day. For example, today America. The Soviet Union too, even if they have collapsed, and even if they are America. After 30 years, after that, they come and sit down, and in their report they say that we have a major problem today. This problem is rooted in the fact that we pushed the Soviet Union aside, but did not change the strategy. We moved forward with the same model of behavior that we have. Let's read the rest of it together. He says, a change that is compatible with the end, the confrontation with the Soviet Union. When you're done with that, you should have put a major change on the table that would be compatible with the world after. In this way, the United States continues to follow the standards that started in 1945 and even 1990. Its name is the superiority strategy, which is the continuation of the efforts of foreign policymakers, after the end of World War II, to create a world system led by the United States. In such a situation, some foreign policy experts believe that the rise of new international powers will have harmful results for America. The first of them is that every new great power will try to dominate, and if it succeeds in this, it will be a threat to America's national security. Sir, look how messy the situation is. How scary is the situation? How amazing and shocking. Sir, you sat at one point of the world. Maybe tomorrow you will be one of the poles of the world. Then, when you are going to be one of the poles of the world tomorrow, it does not mean that you want to upset someone. You can have a deep connection, you can do things, you can have relationships with others. He says, if this happens, it is against the national interests of America, so what should we do? Sir, in your opinion, who is allowed to be a superpower in the next system? So you tell the world these things. You are going to decline now. So that the countries know. If from your point of view, they should not be superpowers and they should not go towards it. Because tomorrow, it is against the interests of your national security, as you say in these reports. Then you want to get involved with it. You want to make a challenge for it. These discussions are being done. In America, for the future of the world, how much is discussed here? I think no one talks about it at all. Go check it out. Now the dispute is about, for example, nuclear negotiations with Iran regarding the issue of the JCPOA. If it was the previous government, Mr. Zarif, what would we do? Sir, we are still stuck on what to do with America. Well, let's move forward with these negotiations. I don't want to make excuses and no excuses can be made. With all over the world, we have to try in any way, wrestle, communicate. This is so good. We are talking about the interests of our nation. Wherever you can, we must communicate with it. But here is the issue. From France to Saudi Arabia, he is planning what I will do if the United States declines. So, we are limping in other places. Our fight is something else. We have another discussion together. We are talking about other things. If you doubt my words, go and see what the fight between Iranian political figures was about these days. It is very disturbing. So he says, one of the possibilities is that some powers want to say something in the world, which is against the national interests of America. So it is wrong. If America can, it will deal with it, and it will create a challenge for the rest. There is another option and that is this. The emergence of a new great power historically. He says, let a new power come to work in the world. But historically, this phenomenon is one of the phenomena that will lead to instability at the level of global politics. Why? Because when it brings its own system, a series. For example, you assume it is centered on China, or centered on Russia, or even centered on America, it can come back again. In a situation where many people say, it is going to decline, it can revive itself. Centered on whoever it is. He says, when the new system comes, screams will be raised. And this leads to instability in the world. Sir, these things that I said, in terms of avoiding war, our world is now going through a period that is very special in its history. We fought less. In terms of the bitter and shocking experiences that we had on this planet in human history. But apparently, it's more complicated. This is the calm before the storms. What we see is the calm before the storm. Let's see the continuation. Although this does not prevent the reduction of power, in order to prevent the emergence of China, especially as a new great power. Because, unlike European countries or Japan, it is outside the sphere of American influence. After that, the successive developments of China have practically turned this country into a great power. And America can't prevent it from appearing no matter what it does. He says, America cannot deal with its emergence, it must accept this. He says, although some people have this view, there is still a special view among experts and analysts on this particular question, and that question is this. Can the U.S. prevent the emergence of new great powers, and thereby maintain its dominance? Is this happening to America or not? They will experience strange ups and downs from the inside. In my opinion, China is the same way. In my opinion, China will be hit inside its own country. Now we have to move forward. Maybe something will happen. I said ourselves that, no, what we said was very wrong and we should have said the issue in a different way. This is how I feel now. What about others? I think that what comes up, Aussins will occur around the borders, which America fears for the future of the world. They're trying to do something like this. And most of all, there is a technology, I don't know if it is science, but it is something new. What should I call it? I do not know. There is something they are trying to achieve, and they hope that if they have achieved it, they will be able to have special words to say to challenge others and dominate the nations. It is the issue of artificial intelligence. I won't make it longer. This is a narrative of the world we are experiencing now, from a world whose air is extremely twilight. Its air is extremely black and white, bright and dark, positive and negative, and inflammatory days, as many think, can have its own progression. If the things we say, and the things the experts say, are correct, it is definitely correct. There are several things to do. 1. Iran must try to find its own place. This requires a will, which is firstly, the collective will of all of us. Second, the will of the elite. Everyone get involved. Let's all talk about this issue, it's very pale. Ignore the other communities at all. Other societies are closed. Some people are confused. Getting confused. The French were very confused. Macron said, "We have to do such and such work, if we can do it in 2 to 3 years. If we have time." Very weird. You have to think about this. The second issue that we should have a plan for besides this is that Iran should become strong with all its might. I think that's enough. I don't have any other points. If you have any points, please send them in the form of a message. It will help this report to be more complete with your message. Dear friends, I am very sincere. I have a lot of devotion. Have a good time.